Hey guys, welcome back. So today we are talking about something that is kind of funny because it is something that is causing up a crazy storm on the internet right now, but it's also something that really pertains to my personal real life. So I don't know if anybody watching this video either watches Secret Lives of Mormon Wives or is just even following what's going on between two of the cast members. But it's basically, essentially, what I want to talk about today. And like I said, it pertains to my real life. So I will be giving kind of like more personal examples of how I'm experiencing what kind of went down. So this is gonna sound bad. And this is never something that I wanted to say. This is never something that I wanted to believe, especially because I was always a person who strongly prioritized my platonic friendships. Friends were a very big deal for me. I believed everybody should really prioritize their friendships, and almost even more than their romantic relationships. That's what I used to believe. And it's just kind of crazy because things that have been happening in my personal life have kind of really shifted my opinion and my beliefs on that. And it's like kind of sad because I never wanted to be that person who believed that you should be quick to give up on any person, any relationship that was special to you in your life. I never wanted to be that person, but real life has really taught me some things. I was definitely humbled as of recently. So really quick, just to summarize what happened online, right? There are two friends and one of them is constantly making decisions that are very self-harming. Whether you agree or understand where she's coming from, that's not really the issue. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is that one of the other friends kind of always felt like she was there for her friend, and her friend just kept repeating the same patterns. Now, I can relate because I am a person who is very honest with my friends. I take my friends' decisions very seriously. I take their pain very seriously. And sometimes, like, I don't consider myself like an empath per se, but I have been told that I am an empath. I don't think so, but I do think I am a very empathetic person. And sometimes that is to my own detriment. And that's kind of the issue that I think is easy to happen when you are somebody who over prioritizes your friendships and people's decisions. And this is kind of like a roundabout, like, nice way of saying this is why you kind of need to stop caring about other people to the degree that you might, or just mind your own business. Like, this is gonna suck to say, but I do think that being a good friend is kind of overrated, because the problem is, right, you know, we all have these beliefs and expectations of what it's like when you're a good friend, and, you know, you think that your friends are gonna value you as a good friend, but to be honest, that doesn't usually happen. And usually the good friend is the one who is constantly giving and is constantly understanding and empathizing and going out of their way to ensure that those around them are doing well. But the problem is that 90% of the time, good friends are getting taken advantage of. Good friends are being a good friend at their own expense. And what I mean by that is when you over invest in somebody else's business, like, this is what I'm trying to say, right? I don't think that when your friends come up to you and tell you these problems, I just really think that we need to, as women, start being better at letting things kind of just be said to us and not taking it on. I was actually talking to my partner about this, and he was saying that with his guy friends, they don't take on each other's issues, right? He was like, when my friends tell me about their bad decisions, like, I tell them like it is, like, you know, I give them my advice, like, just for what it is, but I don't feel anything. I don't like really expect them to do anything about it because I'm not emotionally invested. So he was saying he just kind of never feels like he is wasting his time or wasting his energy or his breath. And guys, like, I was saying, like, I was just getting so frustrated because I was like, I feel like I keep wasting my breath. I keep wasting my energy, like, caring about things that my friends were doing And it was hard too, because my friends and I had like this relationship where it was very like, we tell each other, like, you know, if we feel like we're doing something that's harmful to ourselves, and, you know, we're going to listen to each other and see if we actually agree, you know, basically just think about what people are telling you, not just blindly listening to it. And, you know, that's what was kind of established. But once things really started to happen, that just wasn't the case. And it was frustrating because I was still really overly invested and really thinking about like my friends' decisions and in the long run, and what would that do for them, and were they harming themselves in the process? And I just cared too much, while I was realizing my friends who were making those bad decisions didn't give a damn. And it was very frustrating for me, because I would give very honest advice that I felt like was kind of genuinely for their betterment, right? I don't just give people like a blanket advice and be like, oh, this is what I would do if I were you. Like, I really do. I used to anyways. I don't really give people advice anymore for this reason, but I used to really think about like, okay, well, what are you like? Is what I'm saying beneficial to you? Because everybody's going to have a different opinion of what should get done, right? So I would try to gauge out what people are doing, and unless it's like really, really harming them, then I'm just like, okay, this was really, really harming you. But I just realized something about myself, and I was getting really frustrated and really exhausted with my friends when they would continuously make bad decisions. And it would get so bad to the point where like I wouldn't even really want to talk to my friends anymore, because I was just like, I'm tired of hearing the same old story over and over again. I'm tired of you asking what you think I should do just for you to crap all over what I'm saying anyways, and then just go ahead and do what you wanted to do right after you went and you would get advice from other people who were encouraging you to do messy things that were the exact opposite of what I would be saying. And that really started to kind of make me just be like, what am I doing? What am I doing this for? Am I really like, I'm not valued, because I'm actually looking out for your best interest, and you're getting frustrated at me for looking out for your best interest. So what's the point? Why am I looking out for your best interest? And I'm not gonna lie, a lot of my friendships just kind of like fizzled out, because a lot of them started to feel like, oh, I feel like you just like judge my bad decisions and stuff like that. But I'm like, it's not that I'm judging you for making your own decisions, but the problem is that you're not thinking about your decisions, right? If you gave what I'm saying thought, and we're like, you know what, I understand this is your perspective, but respectfully, I'm still gonna do whatever I want, that's one thing, right? But I really couldn't stand the idea of I was sitting down and I was pouring my being into people, and they were not doing the same for me, and they were not appreciating the effort and the time that I was spending on them. And just a few years ago, I would take that so personally. I would take it so to heart and offensively. And I really just recently started to be like, why am I offended? Why am I taking that so personally? Why does what that person want to do with their life affect me so much? And why am I wasting so much of my time sitting there and caring if you don't care? And what's really upsetting, right, is I have been watching a lot of girls on TikTok talk about this whole issue with like the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives castmates like falling out. And all of them keep saying, or the ones that I'm seeing anyway, a lot of the ones that I'm watching keep saying the same things as me. And they're saying that they understand the friend who kind of said that she's going to no longer support her castmate, and they're like, yeah, because I was the friend that overly invested and cared so much about my friend, and what ended up happening is just like it just got so exhausting. I don't think that any friendship should ever get to a point where it is so exhausting, and if it is, then maybe you shouldn't be in that friendship, or maybe you need to reevaluate that friendship and try to gauge it and see what you want out of that friendship, right? So in my instance, what I ended up doing is I started to realize, and this happened with one of my closest friends ever, I started to realize like she no longer was confiding in me. She never, not even just confiding in me, but she didn't want to even just tell me anything anymore, because she kind of entered this era where she wanted to do really just fun things that I felt like was very bad for her mental health, because it always resulted in crying. It always resulted in just a horrible outcome. And I was kind of just like, well, I don't understand. Like, why do you keep doing the same things? Like, you're not a dumb person. You're actually very smart. Why do you keep repeating the same things if you know what's going to happen? And that would kind of become the frustrating issue to me. Is I was kind of just like, why are we doing things that we know are going to cause us pain, and then just doing them anyway, and then acting surprised when it causes us pain? And you know, at first I genuinely really believed that I was helping by sitting there and just being there for her all the time, even when it may not have been reciprocated, you know? I believed that that was helping. But then it got to a point where I was just like, you know what? I feel exhausted. And I had to evaluate what I was okay with and what I was not. And I had to actually be like, okay, am I actually making things worse? Because I started to feel like I was destroying our friendship without even realizing it, because I wasn't seeing where I was needed in that friendship. And I started to realize like where I was needed is to just sit there and enjoy an entertaining story and be like, yeah, do your thing. That's so funny. Oh my God, give me the tea. And I'm just like naturally not really like that, but I had to realize like, okay, you know what? This friendship is getting so messy. And not only was it getting messy, but things were happening that were actually screwing me over, because I do believe that there were some negative feelings towards me in that time, because maybe she felt like I was overstepping. You know, that was kind of the other frustrating thing about it, is because the communication was just not very open. So I kind of started to get really screwed over throughout that friendship. And I had to just be like, you know what? I do value this friendship. I care a lot about this person, but I also am doing a disservice to myself by always being so readily available just for my efforts to go nowhere and actually result in you pulling back. And so I started to be like, okay, well, what does this person want? Okay, this person wants to be encouraged to be messy. And not to say that I was going to start encouraging, because I would never do that. But I had to start being like, okay, I'm just going to listen to your stories for as they are and be like, oh, okay, like that's it. And I had to fully pull back my emotional investment, even if it was so hard. And trust me, pulling back my emotional investment and demoting our friendship was an extremely hard thing to do. Like, it's not gonna be easy. It's gonna take a long time. And you know what? To this day, it still sucks for me to acknowledge that that's what I had to do in order to find my own peace, instead of caring so much about what was going on in somebody else's life. Because at the end of the day too, I started to realize the more that I was pouring into somebody else, it was taking more and more time away from me. And I started to realize, what are my priorities? My priorities is bettering myself. My priorities was finding true happiness. Because like I said, at the end of the day, when my best friend wanted to make the decisions that she wanted to make, I was not a factor in those decisions. And I shouldn't be. So I had to do the same. I had to return the same energy. And it wasn't easy. Like I said, like it's still to this day, like I'm like not happy about it. I'm not happy that I had to do that. But it really, I was spending so much emotions, just feeling so bad, like mourning our friendship, when the same was not like the same feelings. Like, it's like, why would you chase somebody romantically, right? Same thing. Why would you chase somebody to be your friend? It's not worth it. It's not worth it. And even in the instance with what was happening online, somebody was saying like, oh, I took so much time away from my kids to be a good friend to you. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? At that point, is it their fault? If you are so ready to be so available and so ready to just give up yourself to them, who's to blame at that point? You're actively choosing to do it time and time again. You are choosing to take time from your romantic relationship because that's where that energy really should go. Yourself and your life partner. Your friends are not your life partner. Everybody knows that friendships do, unfortunately, have an expiration date on them. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying to be a trash friend. I'm not saying to not be there for your friends ever or to care about anything that they're going through, not at all. But I'm saying at your expense. That energy should only be reserved for people who are doing the same thing for you. And I just think that when you hit a certain time of your life, I don't want to say a certain age because obviously like people experience different things at different ages, right? So I don't want to make it about age or the number, but when you hit a certain time of your life, your priorities need to shift. I think platonic relationships is a great priority when you are much younger, when you're like a teenager, when you're single, and when you are kind of just sort of figuring life out and you are dealing with peers who are going through the same thing as you. I don't think romantic relationships should be the priority at that age, right? Obviously. I think people always want to sound like they would be the best friend ever, and people want to say the things of like, oh, I would never change like once I get in a relationship because if you do, then you're a pick-me and I'm a girl's girl. And let me tell you something about girls. I do not trust a lot of people who say that they are girls because they're usually not girls. I mean, just time and time again, I've seen people who say like, I'm a girl who end up doing the most shitty things. So I'm just like two other girls and I'm like, I thought you were a girl. That's why like this weird like TikTok lingo is so damaging and harmful because people just think about what makes them sound good. And like I said, there's this whole gender war thing. So everybody thinks like, screw your romantic relationships. If you put that before me, then you're a horrible friend and blah, blah. And of course, yes, to a degree, that can make you a bad friend if you start screwing your friends over, which I don't think has to happen. I don't think that you have to find yourself in a place where you're casting everybody else to the side and solely focusing on your romantic relationship, but it just kind of tends to happen because I think most people get to a point where they realize, hey, maybe my friends are not investing what I am in them. I need to focus more on this person because at the end of the day, your friends' decisions aren't really going to affect you unless you are heavily involved with them. Whose decisions are going to affect you? Yours and your significant other. And I'm not saying that you have to have a significant other to be happy. Of course not. That is solely if that is what you want. If you want a life partner, then I do think that your priorities are naturally gonna have to shift into being more so about them, even if it means taking a step back from your friends. I've done that, and you know what? I'm much happier because I would listen to my friends when they would say, oh, I would never do that. My friends come first. And once again, actions speak louder than words. And when they weren't doing what they said that they were going to do, I was very flabbergasted and I was having a hard time understanding that a lot of people just kind of, like I said earlier, say what sounds good. Like in theory, always being there for your friends is a wonderful thought, but in practice, it can be very difficult. It can be very difficult, especially too, because your relationships are not going to be the same as your friends. And, I don't think that friendships should be exhausting. I think friendships should be a time to just have fun with a person and just love them unconditionally. And I just think it's hard to love somebody unconditionally when you do get emotionally invested in their decisions, because that's when you start feeling like, I have to pull back. I'm exhausted. Oh, they don't care about me as much as I care about them. I'm taking time out of my day to give you attention and care about what you're going through, and you're not doing the same thing for me. Where, if you just kind of like I said earlier, just kind of take their stories and be like, okay, it's just a story, you're not going to feel like you're investing any energy. And then you're just going to be like, okay, I'm having fun. You do you. Your bad decisions have nothing to do with me. I'll still be your friend. I won't exert energy. I won't care per se about what you're saying to that degree where it's affecting me. And I think once you get to that point, you can be a better friend, because that's the other thing that happens, right? When you are the emotionally exhausted friend who's always been there for them, and you have listened to everything and you've poured your advice and you've tried to get them to want better for themselves, why do you care about what somebody else wants for themselves? That sounds really cruel and kind of mean to say, but at the end of the day, why is it that we want our friends to want better for themselves if they don't want it? If they ask you and they value what you're saying and they actually take your advice, different story. But if they don't, I just don't see why it matters so much to us. Because what ends up happening, right, when you start to be like, you know what, I'm intentionally gonna pull back my support and I'm not gonna encourage these bad decisions, you end up actually looking like the bad guy. You end up looking like the villain, because you're the one who's like lashing out and you're having this crash out over what they're doing with their life, and they're like, I don't see why you care. You want to know why they don't see why you care? Because they don't care about you. They don't care about you to the extent that you care about them. Don't do it. Trust me, don't become the villain in somebody else's story because you cared so much about them that you reached a breaking point. It's not worth it. Just be their friend from afar. You don't want to sit there and have all these regrets and ask yourself, like, why did I care so much? Like, why did I do this? You're going to beat yourself up for so long, and you're going to start obsessively thinking about your friend, and you're going to wonder where you went wrong and why didn't I just do this and why didn't they value me? It's not worth it. It's really not. Just knowing sometimes that being a good friend doesn't make you a good friend. Sucks to say, but it's true. Just be the friend for people that you think that they want, and then you will be a good friend. People will screw you over so easily, and I think once you realize that, and you realize like you really do gotta be careful with who you trust, I'm not gonna lie, life becomes so much more peaceful. And same with my friend, you know, to this day, like, I just don't really ask her too many questions about what's going on. And even when I do get the updates, I'm kind of just like, oh, wow, okay. Well, if you need anything, I'm here for you, you know, but I don't sit there and think about it and be like, I don't understand why you're not doing this, and that. I don't do that anymore. I feel like I rambled so much in this video. Like, I really hope what I'm trying to say is getting across. I feel that I am not the best multitasker. I'm trying to work on it, but that's just how I feel. And if you're somebody who's not really able to just pull back, but then still consider yourself a friend, then I'm just telling you, it just doesn't end well. Because a lot of the times, those friends who lack that emotional intelligence and empathy for you and your efforts, they're emotionally immature. They're not going to see where you're coming from, but it doesn't end well. When they feel misunderstood, they're going to be like, oh, you judge me. And that's a frustrating thing to hear when all it is that you just care about them and you want them to make good decisions. But like, do you really want to hear that? Do you want to put yourself through that? I don't think so. I don't think it's worth it. What makes you think that they're going to care about their life the same way that you do, especially when they just continuously do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result? You know what I mean? Okay, guys, I had to get off and finish this look off camera because I was like not here. But go follow me on TikTok. I do makeup videos and like tutorials and stuff like that. So if that's your thing, go check me out, and I will put my TikTok handle somewhere on the screen. And yeah, that's pretty much my vent session today. If you guys like this video, if it helped you, if you think it could help somebody that you know, share it with a friend, subscribe, let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I will see you in my next video. Take care, guys.